The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ, and this is our Memorial Day special. This is obviously not live today. This is coming to you taped, and this is a 1-hour special. I entitled it, so please don't blame Chip. It's called The Two Screw Up, ? And we're going to discuss the new boy emperor mayor of the city of Fall River. And we have a lot of documents, and I do mean a lot of documents, in regards to the past dealings and actions of Jasiel F. Correia II. And I felt it's important, seeing that there's a bastion of people, I'm using big words, Chip, who seem to be following select elected individuals blindlessly. And this creates a problem. And the reason why I say this creates a problem is because when you blindly follow a politician, when you blindly follow a leader, you give them a lot of trust. And no matter what they do, they've done no wrong. And we can look back in history and we can see that. And I'm going to quote somebody that we quote a lot. You know, we look at Adolf Hitler. He was a genius. He took a country which was poor, desolate, falling apart, had no world power, and in 3 years created a world power. And the people of Germany followed him blindly, not seeing him doing anything wrong. Yet history shows that there was a lot of things wrong. And I think that's important to realize that we've done this too many times here in Fall River. We've done this too many times in this state. We've done it too many times in this country. We've created a quasi-fascism. We've created a quasi-socialistic environment that is not conducive to financial responsibility or financial accountability. And that's what's very important for Fall River. And I think that, you know, my co-host Chip has lots of insight into many of these historical individuals, as well as a perspective of Fall River, showing over and over again how when you enter into an office with promises to do all of these things, yet every single promise you've done opposite, you have to question, why did we put you in there? And there's so many of them, from cronyism to, you know, the termination of people saying it's a savings, and, you know, no numbers coming out. And no faith can be developed into an administration or a government when they lie, cheat, and steal, and they make sure that everything goes the way they want for them. And I think that's an important thing to remember about, you know, all your elected leaders.
Well, you know, that's one of the problems with politics. It becomes, for many people, you know, the office itself or the position itself becomes more important than what they originally had. A lot of people start off with good intentions, and the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But many of them, I mean, how many people have we seen run for office on the basis of term limits, and then when they get in and they find out how nice that gig is, all of a sudden they completely make a 180 and say, no, you know, I was wrong. We need me here because I can make change, and I have to be here and gain seniority, and, you know, and they've got a million excuses. But, you know, we've had many people run for office in Fall River, and when they get in there, they've made a lot of promises, and then when they get there, they say, wow, I can give a lot of people jobs. I've got a lot of people tugging at my sleeves and asking for favors and telling me that they're going to help me so they can get a favor later on. And There's a difference, and a vast difference, between being a politician and being a statesman. John Kennedy once said, and I'm paraphrasing now, history will judge whether you're a politician or a statesman based on your actions, and whether you put the good of your city, your state, or your country ahead of your political gain. And realistically, that's what we see a lot. We've seen a lot of mayors take over. They look at the mess Fall River's in, they're overwhelmed, and they have a very, very difficult choice to make. Do some things that are going to be very difficult to do and maybe upset a lot of people and take a chance of not getting reelected, or just begin to play the game the way it's always been played, and that's what happened. We saw the Sutter administration get in. There was a lot of promises. He got in there, he saw the economic mess that the city was in, brought Alan Silver up here, and Alan Silver told him basically what he had to do, and he didn't do it. The fact is, he couldn't do it because he felt that if he did it, he wouldn't get reelected. Well, he didn't get reelected anyway, because he continued to tax and spend and tax and spend. I think the atmosphere today has changed. People are sick and tired of the same old, and political business as usual. They're beginning to pay attention, and knowledge is power. And today's show, CJ is going to go over some documents that he is in possession of that will give everybody a much better insight of our mayor.
Yeah, well, it's important to understand that these documents, some were given to us by select individuals, and some are freely available just by looking for them. I think let's start right from the beginning. And I'm holding a 2-page document called the Jasiel F. Correia II resume. This resume is a little bit old, but you know what? This tells you where this gentleman came from. He's got on here his education, Providence College. And I finally see a job with verifiable income on it. Nordstrom, salesperson, March 2012 to present. So we know that this was made somewhere in probably 2012. Consistently performed as top salesman in both the men's sportswear and men's shoe departments. Well, that's wonderful. Because as a salesman, you have to be able to sell a horse's own crap. And just from your job at City Hall so far, we see you can do that. Then, in experience, he has United States Senate, Washington, D.C., intern for Senator John Kerry, May 2012 to present. So that means his job at Nordstrom must have ended somewhere around May 2012. Or did it? I don't know. Led the surplus book program, attended briefings and hearings, and wrote memorandums. Office of Resident Life at Providence College, Rhode Island. Resident assistant, September 2010 to present. Act as a resource and liaison to 60-plus students and administration. Implemented social education. Well, I'm not going to get into all of this. Now, here's the one that's important. And I'm going to go into it in a second. Low Tags, LLC, also known as lowtags.com. Providence, Rhode Island. It's listed as Providence, Rhode Island now. Partner, January 2012 to present. Created and currently managing an internet and app-based advertisement company with a heavy focus on social media. Established a networking plan to successfully recruit investors, clients, and media buyers. Recruit investors. That's get cash, baby. The Find It Networks. Partner, November 2009 to January 2012. Created and managed a small internet advertising company specializing in social media. Project Assist, Fall River. Project Leader, May 2011 to October 2011. Worked as a community liaison to plan community-wide efforts to help Fall River citizens cope with economic downturn. Assess programs implemented by Project Assist. I guess you forgot what that was, Mr. Mayor, because right now you're not helping anyone that's suffering in the economic downturn. Leadership, Class of 2013 President, please remember that as we get into some of these other things, and Vice Chairman of Building Our Lives Drug-Free Coalition, or BOLD. Also, board member, Community Development Recreation. Currently serves as a board member. I'm not going to get into the activities. It's an entrepreneur club, etc., etc. Also found, still available for the general public, which is also very important, is the fact that, again, another document. And again, we get into these documents and we're looking at them going, wow, and you actually found these out there. Jasiel Correia II, CEO at Snow Owl, Inc. Let's remember this. City of Fall River 104 Business Academy, remember that as well. Snow Chemo Web Development and Marketing, Common Solutions Limited. Common Solutions, remember that name as well. We're going to tie all of these together now.
What, 1 sec, CJ, I have to just interject here.
Yep.
You get the original page, the resume,
Yep.
flip it over.
I did.
Who's his first reference?
Oh, it's Mr. Michael Aguiar, the drug czar.
Now, isn't that ironic? He used him as a reference in his resume.
Right.
And I guess Mr. Aguiar must have used the mayor as a reference to get a job from the mayor.
I would think so. And again, this is how
there's a little bit of proof for all you people out there that this is there's a little bit of patronage going on here.
Yep,
Okay,
and
just had
also-
to interject that.
Not a problem. I'm glad you did because I was going to get to that in a moment. And also remember that currently Mr. Aguiar, there are allegations against him that actually go totally contrary to his position. So let's see how that turns out. So let's get back onto the Boy Emperor's history. This appeared in the Providence College students in the Providence Business News. 2 Providence College students designed site to promote Fall River businesses. A website designed to promote Fall River businesses has been launched by Providence College students, Jasiel Correia and Alec Mendes. Last Thursday, South Coast Today.com reported on that. I have that story as well. The launch of FindItFallRiver.com, also part of the Find It network, also no longer in existence. It's a different search engine and a different form of social network, but it combines the two in one, Correia told the local news service, also known as BS, because everything seems to have the same quotes. And in South Coast Today, which is a Gatehouse media company, website launched to promote Fall River. The partner said they have been in touch with Bristol Community College about potentially hiring students for commission-based sales work. No set number of jobs has been determined yet. Another failed attempt by the mayor, the now mayor. Now, as president of his student government at PC, and remember, he's all about transparency and the voice of the people and everything else. Then student president, or whatever they call this title, came out against an organization called Youth for Western Civilization. They're a conservative organization, and they have a lot of unfounded accusations made against them by the liberal side. And we're not taking sides here. But I am going to say that he lobbied tremendously to put down the voice of the student body, otherwise the voice of the people. And in some of the quotes, and I'm only going to go into some of the quotes here, Jasiel, class of 13, opposed YWC, that's Youth of Western Civilization, becoming an official club. I feel that this truly does not go along with the mission statement of our college, says Correia. We are a college that wants to foster a relationship between cultures, not to discuss them and put them down. Now, nowhere in their documents does Youth of Western Civilization talk about putting other cultures down. They're trying to bring it up and discuss them. They're not being racist, bigoted, or setting them apart. This is an organization that believes in pro-life, a lot of the beliefs of the Catholic Church, and PC is a Catholic university. So how they wouldn't jive with the school's mantra, I don't know. Now, one of the other student senate type people says here, Paquette made a closing statement before the vote. By shutting us down, by confining us to the shadows, aren't you really just telling us to shut up and go away? Said Paquette. I think you should be a little bit more grown up than that. And I think that's the comment that a lot of people are making about the current mayor. And to further it, the YWC was also censored by Providence College by not allowing their founder or speaker from coming to the college. So instead, he met in front of the college gates, and it was a huge media event. But this shows you that the mayor has a history of really not listening to the people. Actually, his history is to shut them down. Now, in the downtown directions, providencedowntown.com, which is from the Providence business community, Regis opens in downtown Providence. And it's a company that opened up. They do a lot of renting daily office space, weekly office space. I'm going to quote in here, down here, Jasiel F. Correia II, and remember this name again, Alec Mendes again, partners of the Find It Networks, are excited about renting a Regis office, they said. As a young company, we were looking for the right amenities for the right price. We're impressed with the location, and we hope to use facilities in other Regis spaces in Boston, New York, and D.C. Regis operates more than 1,100 business centers in 500 cities through 85 countries. Okay, so again, another business, by the way, failed, that the mayor has run. Are we showing you a track record of failure yet, Chip? Are you seeing this? Now,
Yeah, well,
and it gets better. Remember I mentioned the company Common Solutions? Common Solutions was founded in 2010, has a single location. That location is in Pawtucket, Rhode Island at 89 Whirlaway Place. And it is part of the Find It Networks. And you'll never guess who the property owner is on that. Okay? The company is owned by Alex Mendes and Jasiel Correia again. And the property listed as the address of the company is a residential address. It's a single-family home. So, and a lot of people run businesses out of their homes, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's interesting. Now, I'm trying to get to the meat and potatoes quickly because this is the information that we really have to make sure people are aware of. Now, in the Secretary of State's office, I have here the business entity summary. Summary for Lotagz, Lotagz LLC. The exact name of the domestic limited liability company, again, is Lotagz. The name was changed from JC Media LLC on November 15th, 2011. Now, it was located at Jasiel's residential home with his parents on Watkins Street, and it only lists one person, Jasiel Fonseca Correia II, as manager and signatory. And for real property, also lists Jasiel. Now, as we go through these filings, again, I pulled up the paperwork on JC Media, and again, Jasiel's listed everywhere, and that was founded on 11/2/2011. So you have to start looking at this going, okay, all right, I understand this. So on 11/2/2011, the original certificate of organization was filed. On 11/15, 13 days later, it was changed to Lotagz. Okay, not a problem. Except on, okay, the certificate of cancellation. The exact name of domestic liability is Lotagz. The date of filing of the original certificate was 11/2/2011. Reason, the company was never launched. If the certificate of cancellation to be effective at a later date, state the effective date. Under penalty of perjury, 31 October, on 2012. Less than 1 year later, this company closed, yet was still acting in the state of Rhode Island under different names. Now, this shows a pattern of failure, an absolute pattern of failure. And just for clarification, this was also referred to by a former mayor as Lotagz. I don't know why, but this is the company we're talking about, Lotagz. Okay, so this isn't news to a lot of people, but it demonstrates the situation. And this situation shows that Mr. Mendes and Mr. Correia were working long and hard to gather up as much money as they could possibly get for themselves or for their companies, which were all failures. But who lived off that money? Because we can't find an accounting record anywhere. Now, it came to my attention in 2015 when Mayor Correia was serving as a city councilor, and he had filed for a grant, $250,000 from the Mass Development Company. I filed a request under 6610 for a copy of the application, the grant, etc., etc. And it was provided with 3 areas which were blocked out for reasons which were exempted by law, such as his finances and whatnot, and that's okay. But on March 12th, 2015, the Collaborative Workspace Program was created pursuant to Mass General Law, On August 14th, 2014 meeting, the board voted to approve the Collaboration Workspace Guidelines. On August 27th, the agency issued an RFP grant for applications. Therefore, it's hereby voted that the board delegates to the president and CEO the authority to provide a TDI fit-out grant in the amount of $250,000 to the 104 Co-working and Business Academy, contingent on the grantee providing a matching equal to the grant amount and such other terms and conditions set forth in the memorandum or as the board prescribes. So, on August 27th, they gave that to him. I have a copy of their request. Now, the matching money wasn't matching money. The place where his campaign office was located on South Main Street is the property in question, 229 South Main Street. The related parties to the grant was 104 Business Academy, Jasiel F. Correia II, and Christopher Pereño. Isn't that a familiar term? I wonder who Christopher Pereño is. I think that's the mayor's chief of staff. Again, another individual who never really had a real job. Now, I have the minutes from the meeting, which I have available to everyone. But in the grant application, it says that the contingency that they were speaking about would be free rent and office equipment and furniture, which will be provided by Antonio Costa Property Management, LLC, and H&F Construction Home Improvements. Now, for you to know, H&F Construction Home Improvements had their license to work in the Commonwealth suspended. They can't do business here. And I brought that to the attention of Mass Development. I also brought the fact that Jasiel was running for mayor to Mass Development, which he failed to disclose, which is a requirement, and several other things. Now, this grant was approved in what they call a walk-in. And I have the minutes of that meeting. Okay? And he came in between items 27 and 28 on the agenda. It was a walk-in application, and they voted, the Board of Directors of Mass Development approves delegation of authority to the agency's president and CEO to award a TDI fit-out grant of up to $250,000 to the 104 Co-working and Business Academy in Fall River, as outlined in the memorandum and vote dated March 12, 2015, attached and part of the minutes of this meeting. What is funny about that is it was a walk-in. It wasn't on the agenda. So we have to question how legal that was. But for that to get approved, the then city councilor needed to get the approval of the Office of Economic Destruction. So again, we look at the insider trading going on. Now, the biggest problem I have with all of this is that immediately after the election, when it could do no one any harm, several individuals, including a member of the mayor's budget committee for his transition, he calls him the advisory committee, Carl Garcia, came out publicly to then Mayor Sam Sutter, with witnesses present, that he had given a substantial sum of money, approximately $60,000, to the mayor-elect, Jasiel Correia, and that he did not think he would be able to get it back. There are also allegations of other monies being given to him from other people involved, either directly or indirectly, with his administration and his actions within the city of Fall River. So it's a he said, she said, and maybe the former mayor is just trying to get even. We do our due diligence. We went and we looked for the documents. We looked for the information. And we found it. And the problem is that anyone can find this information. Now, this mayor continues to act as though he's a successful businessman. The 104 Business Academy shut its doors. Snow Owl never made a dime, never ever made a dime, except the money that was given to the company from the investors. So the only person making money off of that was Jasiel Correia and Chris Pereño, and any others that were part of the group that formed that committee. Now, people say, well, that's great. He was able to get this money from people, but it's a con. It's a con. He's a confidence man. And that's my opinion, okay? And my opinion is pretty well founded now. But he still goes around and he makes appearances at different locations to speak as an expert in entrepreneurship and small business owner. And he even has one coming up on Thursday at 7 p.m. at 4 Hartwell Street. So far, there's 18 people attending. And it's Welcoming Network, and then from 7:30 to 8:30 is Jasiel Correia speaks and takes questions. And he speaks at Power Players Networking event. He's a power player now? I think the man has a very inflated ego. But more importantly, I think the people need to realize is this is a he said, she said document. A very good one, too. But you'll notice the top, it's a sworn deposition. It's a legal document admitted in a court case. And this tells you how duplicitous this mayor may be. And again, Chip and I had a conversation about it already, and we're going to go back and forth on this on the show. But we cannot afford to have a duplicitous administration presenting anything to the city when you have a city administrator currently say, I won't take a bet on these numbers. Chip, you've been awfully quiet.
Oh, I mean, you're reading stuff. I'm reading it as you go along,
Yeah.
and I'm reading the affidavit from Garcia, and, I mean, I don't know how much time, because we don't have the clock here, and I don't know exactly what
We
time.
got a half an hour left, so we're doing good.
We're doing well.
That's why I want to kill the first half hour with just the documents.
Well, I've got, well, we'll go back to something
Right.
you covered earlier, that thing at Providence College, where Jasiel said that, he felt that wants to foster relationships between cultures, and he objected to the YWC becoming an official club. And I understand that is a Catholic college. So they're a little bit more conservative as far as that's concerned. But academia is supposed to be a very liberal place, and the United States does have this little thing we call the Constitution, that allows people the right of freedom of speech regardless of whether you agree or disagree. And to exclude someone because you don't agree with their philosophy is kind of in conflict with good government. As I said on a show a while back, to me, the greatest example of America was when the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, which is comprised of a lot of Jewish attorneys in many areas, and a very, very liberal organization, defended the rights of the American Nazi Party to demonstrate. They actually went in and fought for their right when they were demonstrating against them. Now, obviously, to take any kind of action in the United States would be illegal, but the right to dissent, the right to have an opinion that even no one agrees with is what makes America different than virtually every other country on this planet. You know, we may be 47th in infant mortality, but the fact is, as far as having freedom, the fact that we're here on TV telling you the way we feel, and you have the right to say what you want, and nobody can throw you in jail or exclude you. It really gives me cause to be a little suspect, you know, because as someone who is running a city, you have to be inclusive of people even who you disagree with. You have to allow everybody their right, and you can't just suppress anybody that has a differing opinion. And although that's been a very prevalent kind of action in Fall River, because if you disagree with the status quo, you're called negative, you're called an obstructionist, and which to me, as we've said many times before, that's not the way to move forward. I may be 180 from your opinion, and I may not be right, but you may not be right, and somewhere in between that 180 at 90, there may be a synthesis, and we can move forward. There's no movement without critical thinking, and there's no critical thinking when everybody thinks the same. And just the fact that you oppose this because you disagreed with their philosophical view or your interpretation of their philosophical view gives me a little bit, it disturbs me a little bit, frankly, because, you know, I mean, you have to allow people to speak. Even in a union hall, you know, people have a right to a minority opinion. Everywhere you have a right to a minority opinion. You have a constitutional right to a minority opinion. So that issue, businesses, well, you know, unfortunately, politicians always pad their resumes. We saw Sam Sutter's campaign manager take credit for the recall. Apparently, our mayor has not been too successful, to say the least, at being an entrepreneur.
Right.
I guess his greatest success as an entrepreneur is being a job generator as the mayor, because he's given all his friends jobs.
Exactly.
But
now that you mentioned the recall, though, I have to cut you off there, Chip, because on this affidavit,
yeah,
that's what this is. The fourth paragraph, on August 15th, before I get into that, the mayor said that he doesn't attack people, that he's able to keep this cool, especially in the incident that occurred with a former businessman. I think this says otherwise, so let's get into that. On August 15, 2014, Councilman Correia called me on my way to work. This is the statement from Carl Garcia. He told me that he had effed up, and it's spelled out here, but I'm not going to say the words on the air, and signed the petition to recall Mayor William A. Flanagan. He said that it was a mistake and that he had not been thinking right when he signed the petition.
Okay. We can stop right there, because we can talk. We can go on to the next one, but I gotta, and you can speak to this too, because you were standing there.
I was
there. As a matter of fact, that's one of the times that I became a little impressed with him as a counselor, because you were standing there and I was standing there when the petition was signed, and there was no intimidation. There was no. He actually left the council chamber, came down the stairs into the foyer, and solicited the petition and signed it.
Yes,
and you were there.
I was there.
And there was no arm twisting or anything. And I still remember the statement he made. I disagree with the recall, but I respect your right to have it and have a different opinion. And I said, well, And of course, I didn't have privy to the document what would happen at Providence College when
Right.
he didn't feel that way. So maybe that was a political position. So what this is, there's a conflict here because
Wait, the conflict gets bigger. Because
I know, but I mean, here we begin the seeds of whether who's telling the truth and
That's
who's
right.
being duplicitous.
That's right.
Here, because somebody is lying.
That's it. And in paragraph 5, Councilman Correia told me why he signed the recall petition. He explained that he signed the petition because he was scared of the people in favor of recalling Mayor Will Flanagan. He said that people trying to recall Mayor Flanagan had threatened both him and his family. And Chip, you and I both know there was no threatening made. No threatening made anywhere. Okay?
Listen, I'm not even sure they were aware that that was the day that the recall was going to be initiated.
That's right.
Because we went across the street and began to number the petitions right afterwards. That is an absolute lie.
Right.
I mean, I don't even think anybody in his family or he knew that that was going to be the day that the petitions came out. As a matter of fact, most of the people involved in the recall weren't sure exactly of the date. And we didn't find that out till we picked them up late in the afternoon,
right.
that they will be ready for that night. So this, you know, in the first one, I don't know if he actually said the F-bomb.
Yep.
And if that characterization, if Mr. Garcia or the mayor, who was not being accurate. But I can tell you this. Why would we threaten him and his family? It's like we had city councilors that didn't sign the petition.
Yeah.
I mean, did we really need them? We got plenty of signatures. We got 70% of the vote. I mean, that statement was a self-serving, political, manipulative statement, and that is not that's not accurate at all.
No,
and that is absolute crap.
Right.
You know, it is absolute crap.
But you know, the thing is that when you go on further, he told me that he met with Mayor Flanagan the previous night. According to Councilman Correia, Mayor Flanagan was upset that Councilman Correia had signed the recall petition because they were friends. Councilman Correia told me that he explained to Mayor Flanagan that he had signed the recall petition because the people advocating for a recall were threatening him and his family. Councilman Correia said that Mayor Flanagan told him that if he felt threatened, he should go to the police. Well, yeah, he should have. Paragraph 7, Councilman Correia told me that Mayor Flanagan was an a-hole, spelled out, because he told Councilman Correia he would not want to be in a foxhole with him. Councilman Correia told me that in response to Mayor Flanagan's comments about the foxhole, he told Mayor Flanagan that he should not be in the foxhole since the bullets were meant for Mayor Flanagan.
Which is a very good point here. Why would he have to be threatened? There was no bullets being aimed at him.
Right.
And if he was a real politician, which apparently he is, he'll sign it for his own political gain.
Exactly.
Because those bullets weren't being aimed at him. He wasn't being recalled.
Right. So 25 to 30 minutes into the phone conversation, Councilman Correia, I told Councilman Correia I was going to stop for breakfast, call him back. When I called Councilman Correia back, Councilman Correia continued to talk about how he felt threatened by the people trying to recall Flanagan. Councilman Correia repeated that point, including how there were people monitoring him online who should not be, over and over. He also repeated that Mayor Flanagan suggested to go to the police. Now, again, the same statements are made, and now we're monitoring him online. This is a mayor who has a history, according to his own resume, and according to his past business industries, is all online. So how could people be monitoring him online when that's his business? You know, that made absolutely no sense. Again, 45 minutes after repeatedly told me that he signed the recall petition, Councilman Correia said that Mayor Flanagan had threatened him at their meeting prior. I was stunned that Councilman Correia said that since he really felt Mayor Flanagan threatened him, I expected he would have told me right away. So after numerous conversations, then he says he was threatened. And we already said that the special prosecutor found a finding of no finding because he couldn't believe either side, I guess. But he said, let's see where we're going. Okay. In response, Councilman mentioned that Tom Goslin was sitting in the back seat of the car during his meeting with Mayor Flanagan. He then said, "I'm not afraid of Mr. Goslin. F him. I'm not afraid of him." Since he said he was not afraid of Mr. Goslin, I asked Councilman Correia again why he thought Mayor Flanagan had threatened him. Councilman Correia answered that Mayor Flanagan had his gun with him. I responded that everyone knows that Mayor Flanagan carries a gun, so that was no reason to feel threatened. Councilman Correia responded, F him, I'm not afraid of his gun anyway. Councilman Correia said nothing else in response to my repeated questions about why he thought Mayor Flanagan may have threatened him. He ended the conversation by saying he was going to come up with an idea to solve all the problems we had talked about. He told me he was going away for the weekend and would figure out a plan to fix everything. In total, I spoke with Councilman Correia for close to an hour about his meeting on August 14, 2015. Now, Chip and I, you and I both know that he did go away after this
2014,
conversation.
yeah.
We know that because we were advised that he had left the city.
Well,
And-
he gets intimidated very easily. First, he was intimidated by the recallers. Now he's intimidated by Flanagan. So,
And then he says he's not
and
intimidated
then
by
he's
him.
not intimidated
Right.
because it's F-bomb everybody.
Right.
He's not afraid of anybody. And, you know, this is basically, you know, a contradiction of a contradiction.
Right.
And, you know, as I said, look, we had some people that entered into some, and they weren't part of the people who were really doing the
Right.
recall. We had some people that were doing some things that we didn't agree with on media, social media, that claimed to be part of the recall.
Right.
And making some statements that we didn't agree with, and we went on record. But also, Flanagan's people were doing the same thing. They were threatening people. They were
Right.
attempting to, you know, and it was part, unfortunately, of the political process. But the fact is that I'm not sure anybody really got intimidated by it.
Right.
But all this thing is just, look, it's basically a contradiction of everything he said on the air. We can produce the audio of
Yes.
him being on the radio
And actually
saying he was
him.
never threatened. He signed it because he wanted to sign it. The recallers never threatened him. And he also didn't say that in this, he didn't tell him that the previous mayor, that Mayor Flanagan, brandished the gun.
Right.
He just said he had a gun.
Right, but in his interview with WSCI, he said it was on a dashboard.
That's right.
Now,
That didn't exist.
Right. And accordingly, in paragraph 11, Councilman Correia never said that Mayor Flanagan pulled out his gun. He never said that Mayor Flanagan put his gun on the dashboard. He never said that Mr. Goslin said anything threatening to him. He never said that Flanagan asked him to lie. So, again, this is a he said, she said thing. And when he heard the interview on WSAR, Councilor Correia claimed he never felt threatened by the people trying to recall Mayor Flanagan. He said that he signed the recall petition only because he thought those in favor of the recall should have their chance to vote, which is what he told us.
Exactly.
Now-
And we were there. And this is not, you know, hearsay or speculative.
We heard that.
You know, we were standing there.
That's right. We
We
heard
were
that.
standing there when he said it.
Yep. And it's just very interesting that, you know, on his radio interview, during the radio interview, Councilman Correia said that during his August 14th meeting, 2014 meeting with Mayor Flanagan tried to force him to lie about the reason for signing the recall petition. According to Councilman Correia, Mayor Flanagan asked him to rescind his name from the recall petition and to explain that he signed the petition because of threats from those in favor of the recall. Councilman Correia said it would be a lie if he were to say that the people in favor of recalling Mayor Flanagan threatened him. Well, then why did he say that to him initially? He claimed that Mr. Goslin said there were dangerous people out there and Councilman Correia should get a gun. Councilman Correia then claimed that Mayor Flanagan pulled out his gun and placed it on the dashboard. This was in the radio interview. Now, he never said that in his initial interviews with Mr. Garcia. So, this is where we get into the duplicity, and this is where a court judge or jury will decide on the validity of either side. But when you look at this from the point of view of your past practice, let's use past practice. There's another word that's overused too often in Fall River. But when you're looking at past practice and past successes, there's not a lot behind Jasiel F. Correia to back up a lot of what he's done. And we've proven that he has been able to con or to obtain or to develop a method of getting cash from investors. And that's a good thing when you're in business. You need to have some investors. But his plans always seem to fail. So when you have a track record of failure in the private sector, and then you come into the governmental sector, and in your first 30 days of office, you screw up tremendously, and you do everything that every political pundit has told you not to do, you've done, and you have an excuse for every single thing that comes out. For every allegation, for every misstep, you have an answer. And it seems that those answers don't add up either. I have to question what's going on.
Yeah, well, I think at the, in paragraph 14 at the end, and he said, I concluded that Councilman Correia was lying in his radio interview. I may conclude after reading this that he was lying in his telephone conversation with Mr. Garcia.
True.
Because he changed his story in the middle of the conversation on the radio, according to this affidavit.
Right.
And this is a sworn affidavit, by the way. And I know they've kissed and made up since.
Well, for $60,000, I think I'd make up to him too.
Well, yeah, they've kissed and made up, but everything we've read here today is available to anybody who wants to read it. And I will give you the last line of paragraph 15. Signed under the penalties of perjury this 3rd day of December 2014. And it's signed by Mr. Garcia.
Right.
So now that they've kissed and made up, he may try to say that we're making this stuff up. We're not making anything up. This is actual, this came from the sworn affidavit. The sworn affidavit. Yep.
There it is.
That's
And,
it.
and the case number is 1473-CV-01137C.
So, I mean, this just no, I mean, I don't know what you can, the only thing we can conclude from this is that this affidavit kind of says that this is a reflection of the way the city's being run. We can't get accurate numbers. And it calls into question whether we can trust, who do we trust? I mean, I can't, I'm not a psychic. I may be a psycho, but I'm not a psychic. But I don't know who's telling the truth. I mean, I'm not saying this is the absolute truth.
Neither am I.
It may be Mr. Garcia's recollection. It may not be accurate. There have been people, and I'm not saying he did, but there have been people who have lied under oath. We know that. But this is cause for concern about the plain and simple fact of the truthfulness of the individual who was running the city. It was, as I said, when he signed that petition, his stock went up with me as a politician because he made the exact statement he said here. He felt that, he felt that the people who wanted the recall had their right to vote. Because little did they think at the beginning of that recall that we would be successful.
Right.
They thought Flanagan was going to mash us like bugs. And the fact is that they didn't think that it was going to get the traction that it did. So that part of the statement makes sense when you look at it in the context. The rest of the stuff is like helter-skelter, and it's like he's trying to not, he knows he got, he got Mayor Flanagan upset, and he's trying to make excuses because he doesn't really want to get and it's deteriorated. But the fact is that, you can't be duplicitous And it causes, it causes people to reflect on the credibility of the individual. And
the other thing that's going to really call into question his credibility is an issue which is just recently coming to light. And I know I've received copies of the complaints. I've even filed a few in regards to the 104 Academy. The 104 Academy is a tremendous failure. We know that Carl Garcia gave him $60,000 for something. We're assuming it was for Snow Owl and that. I'm not going to say it was for his campaign. He also received substantial sums of money from other investors in the city who are currently unnamed, but we're digging that out. Now, he turns around and he brings out this purchase place deal, as we call it. He lives in that area. Now, under the Massachusetts ethics law, you cannot create, act upon, or cause an event or action which is going to benefit you directly or indirectly and or give the impression of impropriety or an actual impropriety. His statement in regards to purchase place was that I live there, so I obviously believe in that area enough. Okay, I'll get past that a little, except for the fact that you're going to benefit from that. Because you live there, it creates an environment where you are better to present yourself for your personal gain. So that's a personal gain. That's a 268A violation. You're using federal money. That also may be a violation. You have political campaign contributors who own the properties. Another campaign violation. You have an area which was designed specifically so that it would qualify for the federal money, because the initial design only took it as far as Franklin Street, I believe. And guess what? That doesn't work. They had to take it all the way down to Cherry. So now you have other people who are benefiting from it, like Steve Camara, because his property falls right in there. Also, 104 Business Academy failed. They couldn't move. Their question to move was because they didn't have the visibility to make their business successful. They were going to move into 229 South Main Street, which became his campaign headquarters from June through January, because they didn't leave there till January. He paid 3 months of rent on it at $500 a month. The market rate rent, let's go back to market rate, for that property is approximately $1,200 a month. Max market rate. You could probably get it for $750. But he only paid $1,500 in rent. So is that a violation? 104, he owned $5,400 to $5,600 to Pat Todd. Okay? To Pat Todd. That money was wiped off because a new business moved in there, Good Clothing, with incentives from HUD, the state, the Office of Economic Destruction, questionable at best, and the mayor didn't have to pay the $5,400 to $5,600 because Pat Todd got her money and was able to move forward with that. And the deal was such that Good Clothing received several months of free rent. Isn't that a questionable violation? So again, it's not the impropriety, it's the appearance of one. And the fact that Alan Sylvia and Jasiel Correia went out for that and had pictures taken inside the 104 office space with the owner of Good Clothing, and they're snapping pictures. They forgot to take the logos down. The logos were still in the windows that said 104. So, if you're looking at this, Chip, independently, what would you think?
Well, obviously, there's some, we have some major issues here. Unfortunately, most of the time, the Ethics Commission is a political rubber stamp, and
Exactly.
They don't do anything. But the reality is, under the law and the way the law is interpreted, obviously, these are serious breaches of that. I mean, talk about perception. It's not even a perceived, in my opinion. I mean, he has major campaign contributors that own property on Purchase Street. It's an alley to nowhere. This is as obvious as hiring a person who used him as a reference And he used that person as a reference and not saying it was a patronage position. So these are the kind of things that people have to pay attention to. And guess what? They're beginning to pay attention to it all over the place. Look at Rhode Island. I mean, every night you turn on the TV in Rhode Island, some politicians getting hammered. Now they've got somebody that got a grant, another grant that they shouldn't have got. We had the one for the Bolivian Association. Now there's another state rep that got a grant. And now under scrutiny is another place that is run by the unions that some state rep is, or state senator is now looking at. Why are they getting grants? Because it may not fall under the purview of the grant, because they're basically training people to do things that aren't in line with education. It's more union
training them to
thing.
be political activists.
That's right, and
Lobbyists.
but if you look at it now, Raimondo again, and the governor again is in the crapper. She got in a crapper about the tourism.
Yep.
Now she made a hire in violation of the state law that requires a person not to work for the state for a year if they leave, and she hired him after 4 months, and her explanation was he was eminently qualified for the job, which is political code for, I thought I could get away with it. And it was like, really? You're supposed to be the governor of the state, and you can't even abide by your own laws. It's
amazing, but what's really funny is that this is nationwide. This isn't just limited to Fall River. It's not limited to Rhode Island. It's nationwide. And the problem is that the people are rising up and attempting to take back their government. And in Fall River, what you need is a group of people who will be dedicated to that purpose. And remember, the magic number in Fall River is 7,500 people. Just get together, come together, and agree that no matter what gets presented before you, you're going to sign it so that you can just take back your government, whether you believe in that petition or not. Because you know what? You're going to send a message to the school committee, to the city council, to the mayor. This is my government. This is my money. This is my house. You work for me. And if you don't like it, too bad.
Well, that's the way the government was supposed to be designed, and we're the only ones who can control it by doing our part and being active. But we see that what we said so long ago on our first show, if you want to expose them, follow the money. Now, when they begin to look closely at jobs, which cost money, and grants, which give money, and you begin to track these things and look closely and examine everything that these political people do, you begin to unearth a trail. And I think if, the problem is if you look hard enough, most of them you're going to find out are in trouble. That's the reason we got rid of, 3 consecutive speakers of the House in Boston. When they begin to look closely at the way these people do business, somebody's always getting something that you and I can't get.
And just for a quick note, the school department has got all these shortfalls, but when they were told to make cuts, they were told to stay away from Title I jobs. Why? Because Title I jobs are political hacks who all have a job because they're politically connected. It's amazing. Okay, so don't touch the Title I jobs. Just lay off everyone else.
Well, did you see the great stat on the TSA with all the controversy with the TSA? They and I may be a little off on this one, but they fired something like 13,000 TSA employees. And you know how many executives in TSA?
None.
One.
Amazing, isn't it?
13,000 workers and one supervisor got fired. So,
but and in Fall River, we hire all our friends.
Thanks for watching for the hour.
Happy Memorial Day. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
And I wish my voice was a little bit better, but